Hey, what's up everybody? I'm here today with another Gamemaker Studio tutorial. I'm going to be continuing my series on creating extensions for Gamemaker using C#. Today we are going to expand upon the previous video, so if you haven't seen that, you should probably go ahead and watch that first before getting into this. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to allow C# to trigger asynchronous events inside of Gamemaker. And so if you go into our object and you go ahead and click add event and go into asynchronous, you'll see we have a bunch of different asynchronous events that we can use. If you look at one, there's one called social. Alrighty, this one is has been created specifically for external libraries to be able to trigger asynchronous events for inside of Gamemaker. So we're going to figure out how to do that using C# today. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and jump back into my C# code. This is what we had up last time. And so the first thing that we need to do is we need to create some delegates. Alrighty, so we're going to create one. This delegate will return void, and we're going to just call it a GML event perform async delegate. Alrighty, and this is going to take in an int, and this int will be the ID of a DS map. Alrighty, and then it's also going to take in an event type, which will be the asynchronous event type, which for social, this will be 70. Alrighty, so just to make sure that we always get it right, we're going to create a constant, and it's going to be an int. And this is going to be event other social. If I can spell it right. It's equal to 70. So whenever we call a function, call this delegate, we will pass this in as the event type every single time. Alrighty? So let's go ahead and create 3 more. We need one that will actually create a DS map, so it's going to be GML DS map create. Of course, you can call these functions whatever you want. This is just what I like to call them. And this one is going to take in a single int. Alrighty? Oh, I actually want to call this DS map create delegate. Okay, now we need 2 bools. These two delegates will allow us to populate our DS map. So this is going to be GML DS map add double delegate. Okay, now when you add a double to your DS map, it has to have a couple of parameters. The first one, of course, is going to be the DS map that you've created previously. So it's going to take in an int that is the ID of our map. It needs to take in a string, which is going to be the key, and it's going to take in a double as its value. Now, whenever you're working with DS maps from an extension, the keys have to be a string. They cannot be numbers like they would be inside of Gamemaker. Alrighty, so let's add one more. So this is going to be GML DS map add string delegate. Alrighty, and this once again is going to take in a map ID. It's going to take in a string as its key, and it's going to take in a string as its value as well. Alrighty, so now we actually need, let's see, how do I describe this? We need some variables that we need some delegates, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. So we're going to create a variable for each of these delegates, a static variable. So this one is going to be static GML event perform async delegate. And this is going to be GML event perform async. I guess this would probably be essentially an event handler, but without, whatever. So we need one for, oh sorry, this shouldn't be it. We need another one for GML DS map create. GML DS map create. Alrighty, we need Then we need one for each of the functions to populate the DS map with. Add double, Gmail DS map add double, and of course one last one, Gmail DS map add string. Map add string. Alrighty, so as you can see, these are the functions that we are actually going to call. I guess these are the variables that we're actually going to call to perform each of these actions. However, currently these variables do nothing when you call them. It will take in parameters, but it has nothing. There are no funcs assigned to them. Alrighty, so we actually need to be able to do that. So very first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a function that Gamemaker will call by itself that will assign funcs to these delegates. Alrighty, so because this is going to be called by Gamemaker, it needs to be a DLL export. Alrighty, this is going to be called RegisterCallbacks. And the calling convention, as usual, is going to be a C declaration. And this will return a double. Wait, first off, it needs to be public static, and it's going to return a double, and it's going to take in a few things. Now, before we can even start writing this function, we actually need to do something. Go ahead and right-click on your project, go down to Properties, and go ahead and click on Build. In here, you're going to see something called Allow Unsafe Code. You're going to have to go ahead and click on that. Now, the title, this is a bit misleading. The code itself is not, unsafe to use, per se. What this will allow you to do is it will allow you to use it will allow you to use pointers, which is usually not, it's not what C# is designed to allow you to do, which is why it's turned off by default. In addition to that, anytime you use a pointer, the function or whatever it's being wrapped in has to be labeled as unsafe. Now, the reason you're usually not allowed to use pointers is because a pointer, if you don't know, is a variable that points to a place in memory that holds a value, right? So every time you create something, it has a pointer associated with it that actually points to the first byte before all of the object information is laid out inside of memory, I guess is the best way I can describe that. But in C#, the garbage collector will move that around all the time in order to be as memory efficient as possible. So if you have a pointer, or if you have a pointer to an object, and that object gets moved inside of the memory, but the pointer is still pointing to the same place, if you try and access the object using the pointer, you're going to get lots of errors. Of course, we don't want errors. So that's why unsafe code is usually not allowed. However, for our purposes, we're not going to be saving the pointers. We're actually going to be getting pointers from Gamemaker, so it should be safe in our case. It will be safe/valid to use. So this is going to be a public static unsafe double. Now, the code won't actually allow you to compile anything, won't compile your program if it has an unsafe keyword unless you allow unsafe code, which is why we need to do. So we're going to call this RegisterCallbacks, and it's going to take in 3 arguments. Alrighty, so this is where the part of the pointers come in. So it's going to take in what's called a char pointer, which inside of C code is equivalent to a string. What this does, it's actually usually an array of characters, with the last one being a terminating. It tells you that the string is over. So this is what a string is inside of C. However, this points to the first character inside of that array, which would normally be the first byte in memory. What this what this specific argument is going to point to is, instead of pointing to a real character, it's just pointing to the first byte in memory that a function is actually going to be held in. So I don't know if I'm describing this well. It's very un-C-sharpy, and most of the time, I mean, this probably just isn't great code unless you're programming in C, and even then, these days you would use something called a void pointer. Alrighty, this is essentially a generic pointer that can point to anything. This would just point to a single byte that would preface an object of some kind. But because you can only return, or Gamemaker can only send these special strings to an external library, that's why I can only return these special strings or doubles, so it has to send these special strings in order for this to work. So we're going to have 4 of these. So it's going to be char pointers 1 through 3. I'll probably call them char pointers and then C strings and just normal strings. I kind of use all the terms interchangeably. There's probably a real standard for them, but for the most part it's probably most understandable in this case to call them just pointers. What these actually are going to function as are function pointers or argument pointers. So maybe that's probably what I should probably call them. Anyway, so it takes in 4 function pointers. Alrighty, so we're going to take these function pointers and convert it into a C# function, which we will then assign to each of these events. Okay, it's a little complicated. Like I said, it's very un-C-sharpy, but I hope I'm describing it as well as I possibly can. So let's go ahead and do the first one. It's GML ds event perform async. This one is going to be equivalent to arg1. So in the order that I wrote them out up here is going to be the order that you're going to get from each of these. Okay, so we're going to have to do something. It's going to be Marshall. This is a static class that allows you, well, at least I believe it's a static class, that allows you to, let's see, how do I describe it? It's a static class that allows you to allocate memory and turn, it allows you to work with C code. So it has a bunch of functions that are present in C and C++, but not present inside of C#. This allows you to work with the code, with the legacy code, I guess. Not necessarily legacy, but the external code. There we go. So the first one is, let's see, so we need to get delegate, I believe this is the one, get function pointer for delegate. No, we need this one. So we need get delegate for function pointer. Alrighty, and we're going to use the one that allows us to assign the correct type of delegate. So in this case, the delegate, of course, the delegate type is going to be, the first one is GML, except for I forgot to put the first thing, GML event perform async delegate. Alrighty, and it's going to take in an int pointer. This is going to be your basic pointer. This is essentially what a void pointer is inside of C or in C++. So we're going to have to convert this char pointer into an int pointer. So we're going to go ahead and say it's going to take in a new int pointer, and you can pass in, if you go through the overloads, you can see the very last one is a void pointer. Any type pointer can automatically be, or can be implicitly converted into a void pointer. So in this case, all you need to do is pass in arg1. Okay, so this right here will find the function that this argument is pointing to, and assign a GML event perform async to that function. So now whenever we call this, we're actually going to be calling the function at this memory location. There we go. So we just need to do this 3 more times for each of the other delegates that we've previously created. So GML dsmap create is equal to marshal dot get delegate for function pointer. So we're, like I said, it's going to be getting the delegate. It's going to be creating a delegate for a function pointer and returning that to this value. So this one is going to take in the GML dsmap create delegate for its type, and it's going to take in a new int pointer that takes in arg2 as its constructor. Alrighty. See, this is relatively simple. Just the concepts going on behind the scene are a little bit more complicated. So, once again, marshal.getDelegate for function pointer. This one's going to take in GML dsmap add double delegate. It's going to take in, once again, an int pointer, arg3, and that's all. We just need to do one more. For the string, marshal.getDelegate for function pointer, GML dsmap add string delegate. And it's going to once again take in an int pointer. Int pointer arg4. Okay, and you can't return void from once Gamemaker calls a function from an external library, you can't return void. So we're going to go ahead and just return 0, just so it's formatted properly to Gamemaker standards. So when a Gamemaker game is started, it will automatically call this function and populate it with the correct values. So that means we can then use these inside of our code to do whatever we want. So basically what this is going to do is we're going to create a DS map, we're going to populate it with values, and then we're going to return it using GML event perform async. And then we're going to read that DS map from inside of the social event. So I'm just going to do a quick example. Alrighty, so I'm just going to go ahead and create one. It's going to be DLL export. This is going to be I'm just going to call it test with a capital T. Once again, the calling convention has to be C declaration. This can be just a public static double test. It's not going to take in anything, and I'm going to go ahead and try and spell it correctly this time. And it's going to return 1, but before that, we're going to schedule a task. So I just have my task library right here. We're going to go ahead and say new task. Let's see, and it's going to not have any value. We're going to go ahead and just create it with a lambda expression like this, and it's going to wait 1 second and then create a DS map. So it's going to create a DS map and then return it to Gamemaker. So in order to get this task to wait 1 second, we're going to go ahead and call task.delay, which is going to take in a millisecond amount to wait, and then we're going to call wait. So this is going to block this thread until while this is running. Okay, so now that that has been delayed, so a task is basically a thread, right? This is going to create a new thread, but it's going to wait for this thread to finish before going on to the next code. Okay, and so inside of here, we're going to go ahead and say var map is equal to gml dsmap create. And when you create a DS map, you always have to pass in 0. So normally we would create, most people, I suppose, is a better way of putting this, would actually create a function or another method. It's going to be a ds map create, so you never forget which value to pass in. And this is going to say return. Oh, this actually has to be static. That's the problem. because it's inside of a static class. And this is just going to say return GML dsmap create, and make it so you pass in 0 here, so you always pass in the right value. So let's just go ahead and use that instead. Alrighty, so now we're going to populate it. I'm just going to do something simple. I'm just going to say GML dsmap add double, and we're going to pass in our map. We're going to say our key is going to be test, but I'm going to keep it lowercase for ease of use. And our value is just going to be 42. It's a nice testing value. Okay, and then, so that populates our map, and now we need to actually return it, or trigger the Gamemaker event. So now we can go ahead and say GML event perform async. It takes in our map to send back to Gamemaker, and our event type is going to be event other social. Alrighty, so this function will return while this task is still running, and then after 1 second we will receive this DS map. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and build this. Make sure I've done everything correctly. It looks like I have. Now we can go ahead and hop into Gamemaker and add this library. So unfortunately, whenever you make changes to a library, you actually have to delete this and re-add in all of the functions, which can be a little bit tiresome at times, but that's just the way that Gamemaker has been programmed. So we're going to go ahead and go into projects, GM tutorial, once again, re-add this binary, go back and go into x86, debug, add it in. Then we're going to go ahead and add in our 2 functions that are needed for this video. So it's going to be register callbacks. Now just make sure that you spell this exactly correctly, otherwise it will not work. Your program will actually crash when it tries to return the value here. I just want to make sure I call it, named it correctly in there. Yes, it looks like I did. In the help, we never have to call it, so I'm going to go ahead and just say do not use. I'm going to go ahead and add in the 4 arguments. The return type is double. The calling convention is this, and it takes in the 4 strings, so go ahead and click OK. Now we're going to go ahead and add in our test function. Just going to call it test, and the external name was test, I believe. Go ahead and check that real quick. Yes, it is. So for our help, it takes in no parameters, it returns a double, and its type is CDECL. Alrighty, so that's all you need. Pretty simple this time on the Gamemaker side of things. And here I'm going to go ahead and instead of showing that in our console, I'm going to go ahead and say show test. Okay, so this should show 1. And inside of our social event, I'm going to go ahead and say show, not capital, show debug message received, and then I'm going to say var test is equal to, so this is actually how you I can't do that, var t is equal, this is actually how you receive the values from C#. So any asynchronous event has a special DS map created for it, and I believe it automatically destroys it as well. So this DS map is called async load, and it's a macro that's already defined with Gamemaker. Alrighty, so this is our DS map. I'm going to use the accessor, but you can also use DS map find value, right? So this one would take async load, and then you'd have to supply your key. In this case, the key goes right after the question mark here, and the key I believe we said was test. Make sure I'm not lying to you. Yeah, so there you go, it's test right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and show that as well. T. Alrighty, so if we go ahead and run this, everything should work as intended. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Gosh dang it. Okay, so as you can see, the function did return 1. However, I messed up a little bit. If we go back into here, I created a new task, but that's not what you're actually supposed to do. What you're actually going to do is you're going to call the static function task.run. Okay, this will actually run the task for you. This is from what I understand, this is equivalent to creating a new task and then down here clicking or writing start, so it starts it automatically. So we're going to use the more obvious version since it'll be closer to the front, and the backside is already pretty cluttered. So I have to build this again and re-add in the function signatures into Gamemaker. So go ahead and delete the library if you added it in. If you did add it in, I'm sorry, because this is super annoying. I know it is. Sorry about that. Going to go ahead and re-add in our library here. Add function. Registered callbacks. I'm glad that I still had that in. Do not. Oh my goodness. Do not use. Add function. This one is test. This time test capital T. I'm not even going to add in the help file or anything. Just going to go ahead and click OK. And let's try this again. Now if I typed in everything correctly, let's see. There we go. So it returned 1 here, and then after 1 second, after the thread was finished processing, it returned our DS map that we created with the correct value. So there you go. That is how you do asynchronous programming from an extension written in C#. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will try and respond as swiftly as possible. So I guess I will see you next time.